We're on.
We are live.
Hey guys.
Welcome to today's Buy Ready show by Hello House. Great to have you back here tuning into our message. My name is Drew Innes, the CEO of Hello House, and this is Scott Agate, the founder of Hello House.
Indeed.
And as we like to refer to him, and actually all the inside industry commentators, Australia's #1 property negotiator.
You don't refer to me as that in the office though.
I don't.
Normally it's expletive that we can't explain here.
Yes, it's like, mate, stop negotiating and get out of my face.
Normally I'm the loud one on the phone that no one wants around.
Exactly.
Yeah, doing my deals.
Exactly. But in saying that, it is actually true. It's sort of funny. You know what's funny, mate? When I talk to people on the phone that are inquiring about our service, and they, everyone says, well, why would I use you guys? And I'm like, well, have you done 3,000 deals? No. Have you bought over $2 billion worth of property, bought and sold? No. Do you think you could out-negotiate Australia's #1 property negotiator? Probably not. Well, isn't that who you want representing you? It's a bit of a no-brainer.
Well, we'll talk about that because that kind of leads us into the talk about what's topical in the news today in the domain, which is one of the two things that we want to talk about on today's call, which is how long it takes to actually save for a deposit in the first place for first home buyers, and then how much of that money they're giving away by not using an expert that's going to be in their corner fighting for their lowest possible price and the best terms. So you've done some maths on this. You've sat down and looked at what you believe the average, based on the median Australian purchase price, what the average purchaser in Australia is leaving on the table. Or giving away out of their hard-earned.
Yeah, so I think, and this is obviously in the context of if you were actually sitting down and logically putting a tangible value against the intangibles of the statistics, right? Bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, you lost me already.
Well, there's an intangible cost associated with taking 7 months to transact. So the question is, what is that 7 months worth to you? Mm-hmm. What's
You're quantifying it.
Yeah,
you're breaking it down, putting a dollar value around all those horror stats that we talk about. The 7 months, the missing 5 times. So you've got building and pest reports, you've got strata reports potentially, you've got contract reviews that you're paying for.
90 hours researching over 300 properties.
What's your own time worth? And your partner's time potentially, or your family's time if you're all looking together. There's a lot of people that get sucked into that vortex.
What's the emotional toll? What's the cost of
how do you quantify the emotional
what is
toll,
the cost of the emotional toll?
That's
because,
a tough one.
Trading in property is, what do they say those 3 biggies are? It's like buying and selling property. You're moving home. It's going through a divorce. It's dealing with all of the emotion associated with grief and loss and death. And so property buying's right up there. So what is the cost of the emotional toll on a relationship between a husband and a wife when they're at loggerheads 7 months down the track, just like what we call experiencing buyer fatigue?
And mate, after working in the inner city Sydney for a long time, it's also husband and wife and wife. You shouldn't just say husband and wife.
Mate, I was very incorrect.
Lots of our customers...
Very politically incorrect.
Yeah, would not be aligned with that statement. But we get where you're going anyway in terms of that. So
my daughter's going to be into me.
for good reason. But it's totally true, because we talked about this morning in a meeting with a strategic partner of one of our mortgage brokers that works closely with us and us with their clients about if you can't get any statistic into your customers' minds, into buyers' minds about exactly what you just said, the 7 months, the 300 properties that you look at in the flesh or online. And it's because a lot of buyers don't have that pain point, or they don't have that pain point when they first start out, especially first home buyers that have never done it before. So they don't know what they're going to get themselves into. But the one thing that I wanted to leave them with this morning was, 45% of buyers in Australia have buyer's remorse. So, if you're talking about relationships and the issues that you've got within a family, what if you make a decision to buy a property and you really lead the path on that, but your partner doesn't like that same property? Or what if you push for something that you've overpaid for, And for the next 30 years, it's going to cost you another $100,000 or $200,000 on your mortgage. Like, there's a lot of potential pitfalls with this, and this is why we keep stressing that you need to outsource it. So I thought today's newspaper headlines in the Domain was really topical for for us to unpack here. That it saves on average it says on average, the Australian buyer takes 10.9 years to buy their first home by saving the deposit.
Yeah, and if you're we're parents, we've got young kids that are sort of growing up, and mine are a little bit ahead of yours. But if you actually sit down and speak to a 20-year-old that's starting their career and aspirationally wants to buy a home and create wealth through property, and you ask them, how do what do you think your odds are of being able to afford a property, mate? They're all just like my son has actually said to me, Dad, I will never own a property in Sydney.
Yeah, my nieces, 21 and 23, have said the same thing.
He said, mate, how am I ever going to get ahead?
Unless they've got help from their parents, it's very difficult. So it's very relevant, like the 11 years to save a deposit, but then it's the bit after that no one talks about, which is the same problems that we look to address all the time. It might take you 11 years to save up for that deposit, but what do you do when you get to that position when you finally get finance ready? It's taking then another 7 months. So if the market is rising, then you're at risk of getting priced out of the market the whole time while it's on the move. But then when you actually get into the nitty-gritty of the negotiation and the asset selection, when you price out or quantify all those pain points, you think it's about $100,000, don't you, on the average or the median price across Australia, that it's actually costing buyers in addition to what they really need to spend. Yeah,
so, and just, we'll give you some context around this, because again, it's, when you talk about the intangibles, people haven't felt the pain point. It's not like you're actually, walking up to the vendor and going, oh, love this home, ready to buy it. How much is it? Oh, it's 1.4 million. Don't worry about that. I'll pay you 1.5.
Don't you do that?
So it's not like you're feeling it out of pocket. But what's happened is it's baked into the process.
Absolutely.
And because it's baked into the process, people aren't conscious about it. And because they're not conscious about it, they're not educating themselves to prepare for it, and they're not developing a strategy to combat it.
I think a lot of people think it's a sunk cost as well. Like buying a property, then, I'm going to sink this many hours in it. I'm going to put this much money into doing building and pests and the rest of it until I land a property that I want. And it's, I'm going to pay through the nose for the right property because it's Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane or Perth, and you just, attuned to the fact that things are really expensive. But unfortunately, there's just not enough people that are willing to spend the time to get educated up front to avoid those pitfalls. Because we talk about this a lot here, that property is not something that you want to learn from your mistakes. Oh. And this is a common one that we hear, is customers saying, oh, I just, I really want to go it alone because I want to learn, for myself. And we're like, okay, well, tell us about your journey so far. Oh, well, I've missed a couple of times and then I'm here I am now in front of you. I'm like, well, this is the point. Like, you've already missed 2 dream homes. You've already probably spent $2,500 in cash on all your due diligence on those properties. What's to say you're not going to do this a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th time and just become an average Australian buyer, when you can change all that up front by actually applying some really easy things that are free and putting a couple of hours into education to understand what lay ahead of you and how to counter it to get your absolute perfect result. Yeah, it makes no sense. Like, people will go and get expert help and advice in most areas of their life. Like, you want to become good at sport, you get a coach. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you want to learn how to play the piano, you get someone to teach you how to play the piano. And so it just doesn't make sense to me that you want to go buy life's largest asset and you go, oh, it's okay, I'll wing it. Yeah, I'll do this. I've got it. I've got it. Yeah, it is a badge of honour in Australia. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah. Yeah, and so what we're talking about here is just threading the needle together, because there's the compounding effect of these things. If it's taking 7 months, the market has moved. Your ability to buy has decreased, right? Your emotional state has fallen off the cliff. Yep. And as a result of that,
when you get to the final, that element, that point of buyer fatigue where you've just had enough and you want to stop the fight, this is where people are absolutely paying an emotional premium.
We've also heard a few times recently, this has come up more often in the last 2 weeks or so. I think it's because we've got the looming Christmas date, and the holiday period in Australia over summer, is that we're getting buyers saying, should I wait now and buy, next year when there's more listings, or should I just watch and try and see the market bottom out? And what happens there? So we've been talking about the pros and cons of that with clients a lot lately as well. Yeah. So a lot of it is around timing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Picking the right time, or picking, the right time for you, more importantly.
Yeah.
When's the right time to buy?
Yeah, and I think, so timing obviously, and we talk about it often here, it's sort of asset selection as well. Like if nothing else, if you want to go it alone, well then go get someone to at least give you some advice on asset selection, right? Right, because then at least if you're going to be out negotiated and pay an emotional premium to the selling agent, you're doing it on a decent asset rather than, something that
is B grade. It's not going to see any decent capital growth in comparison.
Because you've got the compounding effect of that. You've got a B grade asset, you're paying over the odds to get in, right? And you're just simply doing that because you want to stop the fight. And that just makes no sense if you've taken 11 years to get to the start line.
Absolutely. Crazy.
Because that's what we're talking about here. It's like
that's why it stood out to me so much when I read this. And every year they do these reports, and this one was in the Sydney Morning Herald and the Domain today, but every quarter I see it, every year there's a big song and dance about it, and it still is shocking to me that people will spend that much time saving and squirreling away all the funds, and it's really hard to do that, so hats off to them for actually doing the hard work to save, but then just, be so lazy when they get to the start line and they just rush through and buy, a bad asset and overpay for it, or they go the opposite way and they take their time and they just get dragged out and spend too much money and end up buying the wrong property. And compromising.
So
out of frustration.
So there's a smarter way.
Yeah, and we should maybe address what I just said then, which is the question is often coming up to me at the moment is, should I wait till the market bottoms out, or should I wait post-Christmas until there's more stock? And I think the simple answer for me is you can never catch a falling knife, right? We just don't know when the market is going to bottom out. So you just want to stay away from that altogether. You want to buy when the timing suits you and when the timing's right, and when you find, as you just addressed then, the right asset. Now, the motivation for me to buy before Christmas is always strong because what you see is only motivated sellers that are on the market now. So those that have been out of touch with what their values are finally going to come to Jesus moment before Christmas when they realise that it's going to turn over a new calendar year and they're still on the market. So your best time is when an agent is running out of their agency agreement, which is typically 3 months, 90 days. Those agents are really motivated to get a result, so they're going to start pushing their vendor really hard on price because they know they're going to lose that listing anyway, and they're not going to get paid for 3 months worth of work they've done. So things that have been on the market for a long time are prime buying now before Christmas. People that are on the market by choice, coming to market in November or December, are incredibly motivated. And it's normally because they're under financial pressure from rising rates and affordability, or they're very nervous sellers and they've already made moves or plans to trade up or trade down or trade sideways in the market. They've come to market, they want to sell as quickly as possible. So you want to get hold of those listings, and I think you've got less competition this side of Christmas. As it comes around to the end of summer, you're going to see more buyers in the marketplace. You'll probably see more listings as well, but this is a great time to find those good deals.
Yeah, I think also too, just from the human side of things, people, if they're trading in property and they're doing it, because they're a forced seller or whatever that looks like, or they're trading down, or there's a life circumstance that's changing, then like Christmas is just like, it's like one of those I want to clean the slate sort of times.
Always. As an agent, for 2 decades, I know that's absolutely the case with many of our clients, is that they just did not want to start the new year with a new agent or a new sales campaign because they know it's like 3 months worth of lost traction. If they can't auction it until February or late in February after the school holidays finishes. So they're very motivated to meet the market typically before Christmas.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So the takeout of that is, if this is the time where you have to, sort of have educated or a great team around you, feel confident and supported, And, you know, if you're finance ready, you know, this is where, and it's not about bargain hunting, it's about value buying. Right?
Big difference.
Yeah, big difference. And so, good time of year to do that. And
because you can buy good assets. Bargain hunting is buying rubbish assets.
Yeah.
You know, it's the clothes that are last season that are on sale and the clothes bin at the door. Like all your wardrobe. But you're not bargain hunting, exactly what you just said. You're value buying.
Yeah.
You're seeing, you know, good A-class assets, and then you're understanding how to negotiate those for the best possible result.
Exactly.
Sorry, mate, that's a nice shirt. You look hot.
Mate, I actually like this shirt. Saba, I paid top dollar.
Of course you did. Should we jump into this one?
Oh, mate, why not?
I'll do a short version of this today. We want to talk about agent game playing and agent BS. Now, again, I'm not an agent hater. I was one of them for a long time. There's plenty of really good agents in the marketplace doing great jobs, but there's also lots of shit agents doing a terrible job. And a lot of it is around the games that they play with buyers when you put your hand up and show an interest in a property. And it's normally when it comes time to talk turkey. I don't mean just before Christmas in this instance. I mean,
Mate,
show me the money.
I've noticed that there's a few Christmas puns in here. You had a come to Jesus moment.
Oh yeah, I did too.
Right.
Yeah. Good spotting.
Now,
I didn't mean to, so we'll brush past that. But there's when you go to talk cash and start to put an offer that's serious on the table, all of a sudden there's more interest in the property. Very often, 9 out of 10 times when I pick up the phone to an agent and say, great, we've got an interest in buying this property, they'll say, oh, you'll need to get your skates on, we're a long way down the road with another buyer. All the things that I say in reverse to agents basically, and that's because I've learnt all this from doing this so many times, is that as soon as you create competition, it reverses the fear of loss, it drives emotional buying decisions, and it's really important that they create that environment to put pressure on you to make a decision on a time frame that works for them, and they of course extract the highest amount of money out of you, which is their job as the selling agent. So to give you an example of a real life deal that's on the go, I should say, right now with us, we're buying a property in New South Wales for a client. It's a development site for them, so it's a kind of a 1 into 2 subdivision scenario. It's a small house corner plot. It's been on the market for 5 weeks. It failed to sell at auction in the last couple of weeks. It's now on at a fixed price. When we spoke to the agent and when the buyers spoke to the agent gave them all the reasons why. It's great value. The owners have already met the market. They're willing to sell it for what it's worth. Basically trying to pump up the tires of the seller to give you confidence, Drew, around paying a certain price for that asset, and to make you feel like there's other buyers interested at that level. So they're doing their job, and you've got to be able to see through it that that's what they're giving you as their sales pitch. But when I went to make an offer on the property, all of a sudden there was 2 other buyers that are seeing value at a higher level than me that don't have finance ready, but in the next few days, of course, they will be ready to compete against us. Now, one thing the agent did, which I haven't seen done for ages and was pretty funny in the office, when we were laughing about this, is that the agent said, thanks for your offer after I made my initial offer. And he said, no, I'm rejecting that. It's too low. It's the owners aren't going to accept that level. It actually turns out that they've counter-offered since then, 2 days later, very close to that number. So we look like we're going to wrap that up today. But that's by the by. And what he said to me next was, your offer's rejected, but we'll keep you posted if anything changes. He then text messages me an audio file.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah, where he's deliberately not called me, but he's left a long voicemail message that he sent as an SMS saying, mate, I've just had a call from a valuation company booking an evaluation on Friday. Now, I just don't want you guys to incur any costs because you're obviously not anywhere near where my vendors are willing to accept. So if it is you guys, I'll go ahead and cancel it on Friday because I don't want you to incur the valuation costs. If it's not, it'll just be one of the other buyers that I'm dealing with. So very cleverly trying to
introduce fake competition
to us by pretending that there's a valuation booked. He has stuck to that line that there's a valuation booked on Friday each time I've kind of talked to him about either moving or sticking in terms of our offer post that call. But they're just little bits of bait that they're just throwing out there to try and hook in a buyer. and to try and get you emotionally invested in it. Now, when I speak to my buyer about that, often the first thing they say is, "Oh my God, there's another buyer. All right, well, if there's a valuation Friday, we need to jump, we need to move, we should just pay that price or close to it, and let's not lose this opportunity and let's get it done." But it's that years of experience that says, okay, look, he may be telling the truth, but if you're talking about a percentage play, this is a low percentage chance that there's another buyer in the room. Like, that is a kind of a cheesy sales move to create competition out of thin air and to put pressure on you as the buyer. So
that's on page 69 of the manual, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So
what do I need to deploy now? Okay.
Exactly. So look, there's a million of these different things that happens. But the one, I wanted to highlight that because I thought it was an interesting trick that the agent used this week on a deal that we're negotiating. But also just focus on the fact that if you are out there doing it yourself, you are going to get pitted against, competition. I use that in inverted commas because it's not always real. So I wanted to leave you with, a few questions that you can ask, a few things you can say to the agent to really determine the truth in this as best you possibly can to understand if it's legit or not. Yeah.
I think the one thing that I've sort of taken away from my experience in working together with you, this past year, is that if someone's going it alone and they're the last person standing talking to the agent, the question that you have to ask yourself is, how much am I overpaying now?
Mm.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. Because you'd have to say 9 times out of 10, when you're the last man standing, whatever's going back and forth, you are probably bidding against yourself.
Yeah, it is hard to know in that instance, and of course, to win the property, you've got to be the highest bidder, right? So you've got to have the most money on the table, or the best terms, or both. But it's just that fine balance of making sure that you win the keys and you don't, as you say, end up bidding against yourself or into the dark. And that comes back to not only the confidence around understanding how much competition is up against you, the real competition, by asking the right questions and delving into that with the agent, but it's also understanding the dynamics in your market. And we talk about understanding market depth and market prices. So it's that real deep analysis of what a property is actually worth, so that you can confidently bid to a certain level, and beyond that, you should walk away because the value is just not there. And also understanding the reality of how many people are probably going to be competing against you. So if you go to an auction in your local area and you track all the sales to work out the days on market, you'll very quickly work out the likelihood that there's 2 or 5 or 10 people that might be competing against you at a certain price point.
Yeah.
Because you go to an auction locally and you'll see there might be 5 people registered, and the agent will claim, I had a great job, I drove 10 people there to register, but only 3 of them bid. Because everyone else was sitting on their hands, and once it got to a certain price point, no one else had any money or any interest in the property, and there was only 2 or 3 people that kept bidding. And then you work out where those people drop off in the pecking order as to where people start to see value in the market.
Yeah. So the lesson learned out of what we've just been talking about then, because there's a number of moving parts to that. Firstly, the negotiation strategy is not something that you're just deploying in the heat of the moment at the 11th hour when it looks like you're going to lose the deal.
Yeah.
Like having all of your ducks in a line and then building a strategy that is deployed right from the first conversation you have with the selling agent is what sets up what's going to happen 3 or 4 steps down the road.
Yep. And you heard me negotiating today. This is probably off point a tiny bit, but just to addressing that issue just then that you said, you heard me in the car negotiating for that very client, and they were prepared to go up to a certain level, but they also wanted an extra 2 months settlement. So they wanted to go from 3 months to 5 months. So I said to them, let's only go to X level in price because we need to get the settlement extension agreed first. And then if we have to, we can put more money on the table to secure the property. But if we go to the full price first and we ask for the extension, they're likely to say, well, the price works, but the extension doesn't. We're not accepting that. Yeah. So you end up having to compromise on both points. So it's always thinking, how do I win this battle 2 or 3 steps down the line, not just the first up one. And that's what most novice buyers don't understand because they don't get it. They're not thinking like that. You can't think clearly like this if you're not doing it every day. about what all your options are and what is the likelihood of the pushback going to be down the track, because they just don't have any experience doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of asking the right questions to establish whether you've got competition, a couple of things that I would do is I ask the agent, how many other buyers they've got seriously interested in it. And of course, they're going to give you a make-believe number, but you want to try and get into a conversation around that. Again, I always live by the mantra that if they tell you a big backstory to anything, then they're lying. So if they give you all the reasons under the sun why there's someone else interested in who they are, and they paint you this grand picture, there is no other buyer. They're just lying. And because a good agent doesn't need to do that, they'll just simply tell you there's someone else and you need to make a decision, otherwise you're out. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So normally the long backstory means they're telling fibs. So I establish whether or not there's other players. I want to establish as well, are we on equal standing? If I'm an unconditional buyer or an all cash buyer or a 30-day close, is everyone else doing the same thing? Because they may say to you, look, we've got an offer that's better than you, but it may be subject to the sale of their property and on a year settlement with a 2% deposit. Do you know what I mean? It's all good that someone's offering more money, but is it something that is realistically going to be accepted?
Yep.
So scratch the surface, dig into that, ask questions, and try and put the agent under spotlight and under pressure to give you that information to make sure that what your offer is equal to what the others are offering as well, in terms of the settlement dates, deposit sizes, and any conditions in the contract as well. So it's just those things. It's asking a lot of questions and engaging with that agent as much as possible. And then I bait my offers. So I'll give them a bit of a feeling as to where we're thinking we see value, and then gauge their response to that as well. And it's always lower than the money that we've got to spend. So in this instance, if we were going to come in at 1.2 as a target price, I'd be saying things along the lines of, look, we've just made an offer down the road at $1 million and $50 million and 75. That's where we've kind of been hunting. Where will your clients response be, do you think, on the basis of our interest at that kind of level? Oh, no. You're completely wasting your time. Look, I don't want to waste your time, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent, and you're busy, I'm busy, so is my clients. But look, that's where they're kind of been hunting. Where do you think we need to position them to buy? Well, look, we knocked back 1.12, so you need to be north of that, otherwise you're wasting your own time. So rather than me coming in at 1.16 and overpaying 40 grand, we've just established that we probably only need to be at 1.12 or above.
Yeah.
And very often that's BS as well. It actually is probably 1.1. They're just putting a little bit of VAT on their price just to get you further up to where their vendors are. So again, you fall back on your own market knowledge. You're never going to get sucked into any underquoting or bait advertising then. But if you ask questions, you position your numbers around, you'll often get a lot of agents that will open up and be a bit more candid, and you'll probably learn more to position your next offer better.
Yeah, perfect.
That's it, I think, on that one. Yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours around that one, but I think that's all I wanted to cover off on today, just because I think it was very relevant, those two things that we've just been dealing with in the office.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a simpler way.
A smarter way.
There's a simpler, smarter way.
Yeah.
Just get Australia's number one to do it for you.
With pleasure.
But in wrapping up the call, let's sort of talk about the Black Friday sale.
Yep, well, you put together a pretty comprehensive deal for people if they want to get educated, which we're all about. Whether you use us or you go it alone, you've got to get educated in the marketplace. And, we've created that first of a kind Get Buy Ready course, which we know will take people through the find, analyse, negotiate and transact stages of the buying process.
Yep.
So tell us about your magic deal.
Yeah, so it's a great deal. So for $249, which represents a
bargain.
A little bit more than 75% discount. So the Get Buy Ready course retails in the market for $995. So for $249, you get access to the full Get Buy Ready course, strategy session with a buyer coach, so we can learn more about you and your property goals, and then allow us to come up with a plan to achieve them. So which would include a negotiation strategy. We're also going to give where it costs us, the head cost and the expertise that goes behind it to do a deep analysis on a real target property. So not us, no point in sending us fluff pieces, but if you're a real genuine buyer in the market and you're actually, want to put a target in front of us, we'll do a deep analysis around that.
Yep.
So the head cost on that is about $1,000. And then we're going to give you a coupon code to offset $500 from our upfront retainer for our full negotiation service. So can't think of the math now. It's about $2,200 odd worth of value that's sort of rolled in there, and you can secure all that for $249 today. That is going to, and the link is on an expiring coupon code. So come Friday, it's gone.
Cool. Go get it.
Yep. Go get it.
Good deal.
Yep. And we look forward to
put that
helping you.
in the Christmas stocking. I'll do one more Christmas link.
That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And again, we want to deal with questions, like real questions. So if you tune into this and you get right through to the end of this recording and you've got questions about anything that you're working through at the moment, if you're getting finance ready and you're looking to be in the buy and go zone towards the end of this year or early next year, pop your questions down below and we'd love to address them.
See you guys.
All right, bye for
Thanks
now.
for your time.